Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Malitsky and welcome to my video lecture on transformational leadership and management styles. So today I want to discuss, like I said, a little bit, go into a little bit of depth about competing management styles and the debate that's going on in today's organizations. And basically there are two competing theories in today's organizations. Um, there are the historical theory, and that one is called the transactional model. Now, the transactional model is sort of based on the assumption that everything works in a vacuum, that nothing changes, and that organizations, as well as markets, technology, and conditions are stagnant and not changing. Um, and as we all know, that really doesn't hold true because, as everybody knows, things are constantly changing. Um, Especially in this globally competing economic climate that we're in today. Things are constantly changing, things are fluid. Managers have to be able to adapt to changing conditions um, and changing processes and operate in a team based, fluid environment. And they have to be able to be malleable. So, in the transactional model, as I said, managers really tend to resist change, and that's sort of been an effort to reduce mistakes. Um, the transactional model emphasizes repetition, repetitive work processes, and really tries to eliminate human error through repetition and reducing mistakes. And that has some validity to it. Um, but what it does is it stagnates the environment and it fosters a culture within an organization that makes it resistant, especially resistant to change, and the organization becomes obsolete and dies out, which many companies have experienced due to their, in general, inability to adapt to, as I said, changing conditions. And then the transactional model uh, is all about sort of motivating employees through a rewards or penalty based system that is kind of like a carrot and stick system where higher work performance is tended to be rewarded with tangible goods and resources such as financial incentives, promotions, increased work flexibility, or what have you. Whereas conversely, poor work performance by employees is punished and is dealt with through punitive actions such as disciplinary or corrective actions, fear of termination, or termination itself. And as far as employee satisfaction, they tend to be lower, much lower in companies that emphasize the transactional model, because the transactional model places very little value on the employee itself, the employee's job satisfaction, or any intrinsic value-based loyalty that the employee has. Um, and as a result, fosters resentment, increased turnover, and those sorts of things. So employees have very little value, and thus they produce worse results, or at least that's the theory. And as I said, the transactional model again is very resistant to change. So now I want to talk a little bit about the competing philosophy, sort of the newer philosophy in organizations, and some of the most successful organizations in the world have adopted this philosophy. Um, and have made amazing strides in terms of growth, increased innovation, new product streams, new business models, and increased job satisfaction and increased employee loyalty. And that's the transformational model. It takes almost the entirely opposite viewpoint of the transactional approach to organizational management. The transformational approach is geared toward affecting positive change through uh, shared culture, two-way communication, and managers being able to communicate a shared vision for the mutual benefit of all of the employees and all of the stakeholders within an organization. And in order to sort of correctly, apply the transformational management style, leaders have to have certain skills. They have to be great communicators. They have to be charismatic individuals. They have to be dynamic. They have to be highly ethical and moral. And they have to be able to empathize with their employees. Um, and they have to, by doing so, be able to convey a shared vision, as I said, for the mutual benefit of the organization in the future. And by doing so, they elicit positive change and again, foster innovation, new product streams, incredible revenue growth, and those sorts of things. They have to be highly adaptable, they have to be versatile, and they have to be willing to try new things. And as you may have guessed, some of the companies that have been able to do this have been able to make this successful shift from the transactional model to the transformational approach. Have been some of the most successful companies in the world. Companies like Amazon, companies like Google, um, and some of the largest, most successful companies that you'll hear about today. In the article that we read during the course, the case study, it discussed the top 10 transformative companies in 2017, and they all had basically two things in common. First, like I said, they were able to accomplish amazing amounts of growth through innovation and new revenue streams and new business models. And secondly, they all had extremely dynamic, enthusiastic, and inspiring CEOs that were able to do more than just manage their employees. They were able to motivate their employees to follow them and actually affect the positive change that allowed them to become some of the world's top companies. They have to have amazing people skills, as I said, um, but they have to do much more than just talk to their employees. They have to become motivators. They have to become educators. They have to become team workers, uh, and by doing so, they elicit employee loyalty. Uh, Employees have higher work performance outcomes, and employees, in turn, by extension, have a much higher level of intrinsic job satisfaction. And this also reduces turnover as well, as you may have guessed. So I just want to talk briefly about a case study that was mentioned in the article that we read for class, just to provide an example of how transformational leadership was responsible for successfully rescuing a healthcare organization from bankruptcy. Um, and turning it around to a point where it was mentioned as one of the the top companies of 2014. And that company is called DaVita Healthcare. And DaVita Healthcare, actually, if you didn't know, is one of the nation's largest and most innovative healthcare communities today. Um, they got an award from a company called the Reputations Institute, which is an independent health analytics benchmark researcher. And DaVita was actually ranked 37th overall in global rankings, according to a recent article in Harvard Business Review. This article was actually published in December of 2014. And the Reputation Institute is, like I mentioned, they're an analytical researcher. Some of the key performance indicators that they use to do these rankings were indicators such as innovation, workplace governance, citizenship, leadership, and performance improvement, and new services. And they developed their own transformational leadership model that the Institute called RepTrack. It's called the RepTrack model, and that is the Reputation Institute that developed that model. And since 1999, DaVita Healthcare has focused on kidney care and has had a dramatic turnaround to lead all dialysis providers in the CMS, that's the Center for Medicaid Services, Medicaid and Medicare Services quality. And that is the using the CMS Quality Incentives Program. And then they merged with Healthcare Partners in 2012. So, this, as this article says, they continue to be a driving, innovative leader and a transformational leader in healthcare. So that pretty much concludes my discussion of transformational leadership. Thank you very much for creating this assignment, Professor. I learned a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much.